Well, hello everyone. We are. I'm going all over the place on the brand, right? Like, because I was like the intro was Frank's World, and it says, Frank and Lavinia and Andy Leonard as hosts of Data Driven. But that's okay. Um,
I'm down with that.
We were talking in the virtual green room about what we were going to talk about, and last week it was about the home lab and how I got that going, and I had to buy this specialized stuff like that.
Yep.
This week, I hit a major milestone in my home lab experiments, which was I was able to remote access, I was able to pull up both an SSH shell and remote desktop to my Windows server entirely from Starbucks.
You were telling me that, and I was blown away by it.
And I had the youngest of the clan. He doesn't yet bear the Lavinia name, but soon one day he will. But he was hanging out with me at Starbucks, and I think I posted that picture more widely about, because I had he grabbed my empty coffee cup, and like I can't post his face, I can't even say his name. Someone's going to be upset at me for even saying the gender. But I got a picture of the back of him messing with the MacBook, and I posted, these hipster kids with their lattes and their Macs. So,
I saw that. That was funny.
That was a lot of fun. But let's see. All right. All the work IMs come in like when I kick off a stream, but it's not a big deal.
It's right. They're watching LinkedIn. They see your thing.
That's what it is, and it's branding, baby. It's branding. Speaking of which, it's the quarter close, and we've had a good quarter for our product. I know we're a publicly traded company and all that, but I'm a very small drop in a much larger pond. But
don't say that, Frank. You are rocking it over there. You're in the right spot. So Frank, because Frank won't brag about himself, Frank is like an entrepreneur who decided to move into a larger corporation. It's a cool corporation. Love what they do. Like their stuff more and more now. That right over here, we were talking last week about our builder projects. I've got a big old Linux box sitting under the desk right over there. Not let that out too much because I'm still learning and tinkering with it.
Oh yeah, I'm totally embarrassed because that server I got, the Power Edge. Yeah. First off, if anyone wants to start a home lab, I have a bunch of recommendations. I might even write a LinkedIn post about this. Who knows? But if you wanted to, and figure out your goals, right? Your home lab you're doing on-premise AI, kind of generative AI training and things like that.
That's what I'm trying to do. I haven't quite pulled it off yet.
Maybe we could set up Twingate, and I could help you. Maybe like.
Well, I got to finish bragging on you before we jump into
all right, that works. So thank you.
Frank's like an entrepreneur who's hiding out in corporate America right now. That's what I think he's in a really good spot. For knowing Frank for the years I've known him, I think he's in like maybe the perfect spot. So
I like what we're doing. Like, honestly.
Yeah. And he shared with me, more information that he's going to share with you. But yes, he's doing very well. And I'm excited and happy for him.
Well, thank you.
Yep. Good job.
People are starting to realize the cost of cloud, right? So even in my little microcosm, right? The Linode is like a wholly Linux. I think they owned by Heroku, which is owned by Salesforce. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Any case, to spin up a VM, I'm trying to set up an HDFS cluster, right? I tried it with mixed success and mixed results, but I was like, I'll just spin up an Ubuntu server instance in Linode. And, even though I turned it off, actually I left it on, I got to go turn it back off. I get a bill in the month. I get a bill that I'm not really expecting it. And like, it's $36. I think $60 is what but it's not going to break the bank, but if you
It's not free.
extrapolate that, clearly I need more coffee. Um,
Take
but
that, transcribers.
the AI is going to be like, WTF, dude.
What?
Um, or would it be Bailey in a posh British accent saying,
Bailey can do it.
I have faith in Bailey. So for $250, give or take, right? You can get a refurbed server, right? And I think I had to buy like one hard drive. I was able to repurpose like an older one. So I have two hard drives in this thing. And like we're talking like under $300.
Yeah.
I now have a not great, like I'm not going to train any large language models on it, but that's not my point, right? My goal is to learn more about Linux, learn more about containers, learn more
Yep.
about kind of the ops side of things, right? Because when I
Right.
joined Red Hat, you know, I'm a data scientist, right? So actually, this is a good opportunity to share a little bit of a slide deck I have, and I know everybody's groaning, but I've written about this, but I think it's one of those things where trust me, it's not a commercial pitch. It's part of a commercial pitch, but I'm going to skip past all that stuff, right?
And I am chuckling, resisting the urge to comment in a way that would be germane, but would be totally open to a misinterpretation.
Oh
And
God, I shudder to think. I
you
shudder
know
to
me.
think.
I'm a.
I know. I'm
I
gonna have to
like a
ask you
good
later. Like,
pun.
what's he?
I'm going to
All
send
right,
it to you in chat.
all right, that sounds good. All right, so one of the things is that, and I've kind of, it's a story I tell when I start off, is that the stronger the foundation, right, the higher you can build, right, and getting kind of further into that, data is really the foundation of AI, right? We've talked about this since day one, right?
Yep.
Where you know some of our guests, our esteemed guests on the podcast, would say, "Well, first you get the data."
Right.
You know, it's 5 words. That could be 5 months of 5 people. Easy, right?
Easy.
And I kind of had this talk, right, where I had this thinking where what we really have, and there is a LinkedIn article I wrote on this, kind of expanding on this, is the idea of the hierarchy of data needs with apology
Yep.
to Abraham Maslow, right? So Abraham Maslow.
Hey, I love this. I think this is a great appropriation.
Well, thank you, thank you. Hopefully his estate won't sue me, but
If they are, they're busy suing a lot of people because I see
I was
these
gonna
hierarchies
say,
all over. Yeah.
say, where the idea is that when if you're a data scientist, you're largely thinking about this, right? You're kind of here, right?
Yep.
And I'm guilty of this, right? Like I'll be like, I don't care, just particularly when I was at Microsoft, I would just be like, okay, yes, I do want 5 GPUs, you know. Yes, I do need 5 petabytes of storage, right?
Right.
It was only a problem like once you hit over a certain threshold that if you were working there as a seller, you had kind of a budget. But for the most part, you didn't have to think about it because it was just magic. It would magically appear. But I think as the field develops, as this becomes a more enterprise-focused discipline, you have to start thinking about this and as a process, as a whole lot more you have to start thinking about.
Sure.
Not the least of which is cost. So if we're looking at my humble little, I want to stand up one server, right? And I actually have another, I get this other surprise bill every month from Amazon for $35, right? I really should take care of it, honestly, right?
Yeah.
But I spun up like 6 months ago some SageMaker stuff, and I turned everything off, but apparently there's still something there that is running, right? Now extrapolate that from one person just goofing around to an entire corporation.
Oh yeah.
I suspect there's a lot of surprise bills that are happening, are coming in. Like, what are we spending this on?
Yeah.
Right. So, and I think it's a solid thing to start thinking about on-prem as a viable compute platform, right? which is crazy because 10 years ago, it was doubtful that the cloud would be a viable compute platform, right? Like, so people have gone so
Yeah.
far one way, and I'm not saying
Yep.
the cloud doesn't have its purpose. It certainly does, but that's really what I built the home lab for. I want to be able to experiment with this stuff, and then if I want to do the large language model training or do something heavier, I want to be
Yep.
able to cloud burst to the cloud, spin up some GPUs, and then shut it down immediately. Right?
Well,
That's
you know this. I mean, you know this because of where you work
mhm.
and speaking with customers. You're experiencing a lot of, I guess, growth in the on premises market, and that
Right.
sounds so counterintuitive. And
It sounds very 1980ish, right? Like,
it does, right?
um,
And who's talking about the growth of on premises? But there's a couple of reasons why. And there's I was talking with a good friend of ours, Nick. Nick's been on the show.
that's right.
And
Second
I
show,
said,
I believe.
yeah,
Second or third.
scary smart guy. And this was
Yeah,
back before he scored an MBA from Sloan at MIT.
that's
So
right. That's right.
yeah. So he's always been scary smart and an awesome guy, but he went and picked up some more education on that. And I'll have to get his email. Maybe
We
I'll
should
dig
have him
that up
back.
before we
We
end.
should have him
We
back
should, because
because he's been up to
you
a
know
lot of interesting things, like all over
he
the map. That, like, I don't know if he'll be able to
yeah,
talk about, but like it'd be interesting to get his insight. I think also too from like a
yeah,
professional development point of view, like you said, he was scary smart before
yep,
he had the. I thought it was Harvard, but MIT will
yeah,
do, right. He
yeah,
before he had the degree, the MEA from
yeah,
MIT. So what
yeah.
like I wonder, like, what has it opened more doors? Is it, and this is something that, wow, we're going all off track today, right?
We are. I said we
That's what
were
we
going to
do.
go back to Twingate half the show ago. That's
We
my
will.
bad.
We'll get there. We'll get
But
there.
the one thing I was talking to him about was, as I was sharing with him about some of the stuff you'd been sharing with me and what we're both seeing as, yes, there's a number of people moving into the cloud. I'm doing consulting right now. That's all of my consulting is helping people get performance out of Azure, Azure Data Factory, and the like, moving into Synapse. All of those kinds of things is how I'm paying the bills right now. So when I talk about this, it's not without risk. This is not me towing the line that's making my bank account numbers move. This is me looking at the trends that I see out there and going, there's an awful lot of people who are either resisting going to the cloud or backing out of it. Part of it is the sticker shock that you said. Nick had a different opinion, and his points made sense, and I don't want to mischaracterize him. So I'm going to see if we can get him on the show
Yeah,
and
yeah,
talk
yeah.
to him about this. But he said, no, you're all wrong, Andy, which is one of the reasons I love Nick. I'm around. Did you do this too? Andy, you're full of crap. That's not right. You're misinterpreting everything. And sometimes I agree with it. Either way, I walk away more informed, whether I agree or disagree. But privacy, that was one of the things I brought up to Nick. I said, I think because I've heard customers say the words to me, I think there's a number of people out there that are worried who else is looking at my data.
Right.
And I won't go farther, than that on it, but
Well, I mean, you saw this. I sent you the news story this week about Google, right? Google Bard. They've since fixed it. Apparently, it was not a good
yeah,
look. But for
but
those that don't know, is that if you were talking to Google Bard, right, and
yeah, there was that.
then you shared the conversation to somebody, and like I've done that now with ChatGPT, where I have Bailey kind
Yeah,
of write stuff up, and and I'm like, hey, check this out. What do you think? Right. But if you share it, the Google search engine thought it was just fine and dandy, and it was fair game to index that.
yeah, that was. I don't know how they got there. I mean, as an engineer, I want to believe there was a path there that had no malice, and it was
Maybe
just a mistake. But I
I could
can't
see
quite
that. It
get
all
there.
depends on the engineering. It all depends on the engineering, and it all goes down to the
Yeah,
do you build up or you tear down, right? So I think Google
right.
has a history, right or wrong, of everything should be open and like not protected, and then they add protection as needed.
And
Versus other
overall,
companies have a different philosophy.
Yeah, overall, that's not evil. You see
Right.
what I did there?
I did.
Yeah, that's, by the way, I don't think that's no longer a thing with Google. I think they
Did they
took that
change it?
out.
Do you know evil?
I think they removed it.
There was
I don't know.
a Microsoft
Yeah.
executive.
Don't be evil, I think it
It
was, or
was "Don't
something
be
like that.
evil," but it was like
Yeah.
he pointed out at one major sales conference, like, you know,
Yeah.
you really have to wonder about the ethics of a company that has to remind themselves not to be evil all the time,
That,
which I thought was an interesting play on words. It's not really what they intended originally, but again, just an interesting observation. And that guy was
sure.
not known for interesting observations. I'd name him, but I'm
Yes.
going to stop right. He no longer works there. Just put it that way.
Yeah.
And I no
Yeah.
longer work there, so.
But, so I think part of this, and we can flow right into Twingate with this.
Mhm,
Let's just say there's opportunity out there where there are some businesses, for whatever reason,
mhm,
that are deciding that they would rather keep their data on premises. And I'll throw this one tidbit out I've mentioned before. Whenever I do like a day long pre-conference training session, and I got to do a few here recently, and I'll get to do some more. I'll ask the audience how many here are using the cloud, any cloud, in production, and I have yet to crack 50%. Now, if
I'm glad
you're
you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that. And I see Michael
and
Stark. I gotta
yeah,
connect with you, Michael. Michael, I saw that comment. Well, thank
yeah,
you. I
thanks,
concur
Michael.
with the assessment of Frank. Well, thank you very much.
But the
It's
thing
always
is, the marketing people, the cloud marketing people, are doing a
Mhm.
wonderful job because they've got you in FOMO mode. Um,
Bingo. I'm
and
glad you
and
mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned that because
I get it.
I was going to bring it up because it's something that you had said is that you would go and you would talk to these events and if you're at a
Yeah,
pre-con for like, pass or any of these big conferences, it's a,
yeah,
usually it's a pretty heavy enterprise leaning crowd, right? Generally speaking,
yep.
right? That's very telling, right? And you're
It
right. The
is.
marketing has it meaning, and I know you've tweeted out something about SSIS and how you were doing this. And for those who don't know what SSIS is, it's SQL Server Integration Services. It's basically Azure Data Factory on-prem, right? Which is kind of funny because it's ADF is really kind of SSIS in the cloud. I know there's differences. I know I'm going to get heat
Yeah.
now. Like it's not exactly like that, but it serves
Don't
the same
hate Frank.
purpose. Don't hate on me. But I mean, it's interesting because like people really think that, and it's like
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily the case. And I
It's
think
not, and people feel like they're missing out, and then
right,
the point of the exercise, at least for me, is to say you're still an early adopter, in my humble opinion. If you got about 40% adoption on this, with the cloud period, with data, then okay, you're still on the cutting edge, in my humble opinion, and I've had people come up to me every time I do this, Frank, and when I point that out, and they say, I was one of those people. I thought, I was way behind the times. We're still running stuff on premises, and I thought we're going to fall over any day because I haven't learned all the new cool shiny stuff. And I'm not. I promise I'm not being critical of the cloud people. I get it in a number of ways. I get it from the technology perspective, and I get it from the customer and the cloud providers because it smooths out income and expense for both. It really does, and that's being able to predict cost is huge for especially for enterprises. So I'm just trying to share with folks that it's not it's not that you're wrong. It's that you're being told a piece of the story, and I just want you to keep your options open. And I'm not talking about going back to analog computing. you know?
well, so playing devil's advocate, you could say that
Sure.
enterprises are not always on average on the cutting edge, right? That's not what enterprises do, right? Because they once you have something once you have something to lose, you're going to be far more protective of it, right? That's why startups take all the risk, right?
That's
Some of that
true.
is just
That's that's
some of
fair.
that is just basic game theory, right? Like
Yep.
like
Yep.
if you got nothing to lose, there's a song by Gore, who's from Richmond actually,
Yeah.
and I'm
I
not going
actually
to repeat
saw
the whole thing.
Gore in concert once.
Oh, dude, we have to have
It
I
was
have to
an
I have to
experience.
I was gonna say, I was like, it's not for the weak of heart. But I had a college roommate who introduced me to Gore. But there's one song called Slaughterama, and I'll paraphrase it, but it's like something like, you know, when your life is blank, you haven't got much to lose. So I think when startups, they don't have a lot to lose, right? So
That's a great analogy and a Gore plug,
and it's a Gore plug, right? I'm not all about Wu-Tang Clan.
I thought Wu-Tang's cool. So we got two band hashtags we need to throw in there. We were talking about another act in the green room. We probably won't mention.
Oh, Pitbull.
Oh, okay. Well, we will
mention him. Not maybe why, but like So this is kind of I don't know. It's almost embarrassing, but apparently on Spotify for like up until last year, he was like I was like in the top like 1% of listeners.
Oh wow!
I think I fell to like the top 3%, but still, like he's heavily on the playlist.
You know what? You started getting all those certs.
That's what it is.
And you picked up a couple this month, didn't you?
I did, both in generative AI. Pluralsight has a good course on troubleshooting Windows with how to use generative AI in that. Nice. And then did the Linux one too. Excellent guy was Tim Warner, I think is his name, something Warner. Highly recommend.
So you're knocking on 200 certs now, aren't you?
179.
Getting there.
So
about to cross the 90 percentile of 200.
I always like to get 2 per month. I like to average it out 2 per month. But there was some month in the summer where I was in the car a lot, going back and forth. Again, it ties into this, the newest member of the family.
Yes.
But part of the reason why I'm building out a simple lab first is because I don't know what legal fees await me to make him an official member of the family legally.
Right.
But although he is a relative, so
well, what I mean. It was interesting, the economics of this. You were talking about $300. You're in for $300. I'm looking over here at the box right now. I was probably at $2,500 to $3,000 on this. I bought a lot of new shiny stuff. I didn't do what you did, which you actually got a better GPU than I do. And I spent.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I don't know about better. It has like 16 gigs of RAM in it. It's just basically, and it's got a VGA port, so it's not exactly like.
But, I mean, this one's got all of the super cool ports on it. I'm not going to tell you what I've done to it. I'm running it over here on a really small monitor, but it's not taking advantage of that part of it. But I wanted to get the GPUs for the processing power, but someone asked me, a couple people saw me tweet about it or something and said, why are you doing that? And I told them, and they said, well, why don't you just spin it up on the cloud? And I said, because my estimate on what I want to do to learn this, and keep in mind, you're going to try, fail.
Oh, yeah.
In about 9 months, I will have paid for this.
Right.
And I am at 9 months. Sorry, go ahead.
No, exactly. Like with my burn rate, let's assume $90 a month, right? 30 from Amazon, 60 from Linode. Not knocking Linode, like they're a great thing, but if you forget to turn things off, right? Or you know
what? My mic was muted.
Oh, that's funny. I heard you though.
That's weird that you heard me. Nobody else did. I'm sorry about that. I think somebody's calling me on my phone right now to tell me your mic is muted.
Oh, that's funny.
I hope it did. I hope it came up.
For me, with a burn rate of $90 and I'm in for under 300, I'll get that, in a
end
couple
of the year.
Months, right. And so I mean, it's not a bad deal. I think, that, and I'm not saying cloud is bad, right? I'm not saying on-prem is great, but I think it's also wrong to say on-prem is bad and cloud is great, right? There's a sliding scale, right? We're here. The machines are here to serve us, at least for now. And
Mike said you heard me, but not listening. Thanks for the feedback, Mike. Nice. Appreciate that.
I'll reach out to Mike.
I'm glad you could
catch up
hear
with
me.
him. But either that, I'm really good at reading lips, and I forgot. But so the Yeah, no, you're right. Like, it doesn't make sense, especially if you're just messing around, right? If you're just messing
Yeah,
around, right? And there's also kind of things about privacy and things like that. And I'm not
I
saying
think
that
some. I don't know that it's as much as
for
I
the home
thought,
lab, it's not really
initially.
that it, but I mean, like,
That's
I
true.
know with a lot of customers there are regulations, or whether or not the regulations make sense, they
That's
have to
true.
follow them, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and and there's certain talking points that I used to use when I was selling Azure was are you going to be able to hire you know the type of IT secure, experts and things like that. So it's not
yeah.
solely the compute because there's a big part of it. Although if you look
Right.
at the news in the last week or two, Microsoft doesn't exactly have an awesome track record on securing data either, right? There
They,
was the
yeah, they took a couple hits.
They took a couple of hits, and
Yeah.
it's just like security is not an exact science. I mean, that's just kind of how it is. And
Gotcha. Yeah.
so, I mean, I'm not knocking it. I mean, that could easily happen to AWS. I mean, AWS had, has had a couple of outages. That was the other thing too, right? You'll never have an outage. Well,
Yeah.
you know, good. That's just when you tempt fate like that, it kind of has a way of you have a way of regretting it.
That
But
that's true.
um, Twingate.
Mm.
So I love Twingate. Um,
Tell
so
me
let me
about Twingate, Frank, because I
so
don't know that much about it.
I don't fully understand it either, right? I haven't
Okay.
done like networking and kind of IT ops stuff since Tupac was still alive, right? I hadn't
I
really.
was going to say the last time I remember doing serious networking, I was
Mhm.
building a cable where I had to reverse two sets of pairs on one end
Oh,
so
the
that we
loop.
could
Is it a loop
connect.
back or is that called the switch
I
over?
forget
Switch
what they
over,
call it, but we
crossover.
did yeah, crossover. And we had to do that to have our two Pentium computers play Doom with each other.
Nice, nice.
That was a lot. That was back when the years began with a one. And
Kid,
Tupac was alive then too.
kids, kids today would not get that.
That, of course. And it's okay. It's I'm an old grumpy dude, and you who used to make crossover networking
These the
cables.
crossover network cables. I was referring
That's
to
it.
the Pentiums. All right, so
Pentiums. Oh,
yeah, just in
oh,
case
you're
the
right.
kids don't
That's
know
right.
what
They
it is.
don't. They give them these I numbers now.
They have I
I
numbers now.
something. Yeah.
Probably because somebody registered or trademarked like, Hexium or Septium or Octium. I don't know. We had
This
some
guy, I like this guy, Network Chuck.
This guy is a trip. And this is a guy, even though he's not strictly into data, this is a guy I'd love to have on the show because his
Yeah.
personality and his videos are awesome.
He's got a cool beard.
And he's got an
I
epic
mean, right
beard.
away.
Did you
Yeah.
watch this video about hang on, let me go here. Killer
You sent
VPN
me one
killer?
recently, and I was watching
I
it.
think this might have been it, where he
It was the
basically.
Raspberry Pi one. That's the
Oh,
one
the
you sent
Raspberry
me that
Pi
I
one.
watched
Yeah, yeah,
recently.
yeah.
Yeah.
See, folks, we all eventually do loop back. But he does this. He actually, it's funny because he creates a group in there, people with beards and people without beards, as part of
Yeah.
like his access control list. It's pretty funny. So he's the one who introduced me to this, and it's basically a zero trust way to to provide a VPN, right? So the way he
Okay.
describes it is that if he were to, so I'm going to attempt to, we're pulling out all the stops today, right? So you have your
Yeah.
home. This is my home lab, right?
Oh, art.
Home lab, and I actually name all my home servers after ships in the expanse, or actually servers. I'm giving them station names, so that's Tycho.
Ah, okay.
If I could spell,
So
and
my Linux box is the Donager.
you have the Donager, which is also that.
Yeah.
All my
Don't you have
client,
Razorback?
I have Razorback as the Mac, yeah. So I have
Yeah.
those are the client machines. That's how I kind of know. So there's Razorback, Rocinante.
Nice.
Um,
Oh, and you sent me for I think for a birthday present.
mhm.
You sent me a little Rocinante model,
I did, yeah, yeah.
and I haven't done it yet, but it's got like a smoked plexiglass side to it.
Oh,
I'm going
cool.
to mount the Rocinante in the Donager. Get
Which
it?
super nerds will get that because
Yeah.
the
Read the
Donager was
books.
kind of like an aircraft carrier for spaceships, and The Rocinante
Right.
was one of the ones that was docked inside.
What was it called back then? It wasn't the
Tachi.
Rocinante.
Tachi.
It was what? The Tachi. That's right.
Yeah.
Negative point for Andy. Demerit for Andy for getting
it's super sad, actually. Who's getting a demerit here? Because I have like a poster of the Rocinante on the wall. And it said, the I think it's the 271 was its hull number, which is really sad.
There we go.
All right. So the way this guy, and this is the big wide internet, right?
Right. Now, I want to ask before you go here, is this what you used from Starbucks?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Now I'm all ears.
For a number of years, which is kind of sad. This is sad, Frank. Right?
That is sad, Frank.
Well, so for a while, particularly this year, it really hit home because we were constantly out of state visiting this new member of the family who had not yet lived with us. So there were things that I wanted to access. I wanted to be able to remote into my personal machine and kind of get files or whatever. And I know I could, put it in the cloud, but not necessarily, right? Like, what if I had an app, right, that I wanted to access that I only had on the Windows machine? What if I had the Mac with me, right? And I only had one license, so I couldn't exactly hop it around, right? So there was just a real need to, hey, I'd love to be able to go in and just remote to it, right? Shouldn't be a problem, right? The only way I knew of until Network Chuck was to create a VPN, right? Which would open up a hole, and I would basically be able to go straight in. Now, the catch with that is, one, I open up ports.
So can others.
So can others. And that was actually the reason why he has an entire home lab, his whole family set up, and he wanted to parcel that out. And he's like, I could do some networking and stuff, but what if you wanted to grant temporary access? There's a whole list of reasons. I highly recommend you watch the YouTube video.
I'm going to watch that video.
And you'll get a kick out of the beards thing. So what this does is that you basically set up a Twingate proxy.
Okay.
Right. And you install a Twingate client on your machine. Right. Phones, whatever.
Wait, how much does this cost?
It's free for up to like 10 users.
No way.
If you're doing this for a business, then it's going to cost you. But if it's just for your home lab and just messing around, it's free.
Well, see, it's a great way to get people familiar with your product.
Bingo. I was telling somebody who works in he's one of the top network security guys at one of the federal agencies. And I was like, oh, check this out. I just set it up because he's the one that I always go to when I hit a wall when it comes to network and infrastructure stuff. And because my wife hasn't done that since maybe trying to think of a musician who died about 15, 20 years ago. I can't think of one. Let me know in the comments if you can think of one. But she hasn't done that since, like American Idol first came on. Maybe I'll start there, right?
That's more positive too.
That's more positive too, right?
Yeah, I like it.
So, but she works in kind of accrediting system. So if when I mentioned opening up a VPN, she was the first one like, is that really a good idea? I was like, no, I don't know enough how to do it right. It's kind of like heart surgery, right? You don't want to do it unless you know how to do it really well.
That's a great analogy.
And I credit
Pavarotti.
Pavarotti,
Michael Stark says.
Oh, for the beards.
Or did he pass away back then? Is Pavarotti still alive? That's bad. I have to ask that. Now I've got to go check.
Well, thank goodness we live in an era where it's only a search query away.
That's true.
No, so he says that the zero trust model, they don't use Twingate, but they use something very similar to convert all their networks. So they kind of have a more of a zero trust model. So basically what happens is you get this, and then there's the Twingate service that you connect to, right? that you register and you create a network, right? And you basically generate a token. This has a token. This has a token, and they basically communicate over a secure channel over HTTP or over port 443, right?
Oh, wow.
And the cool thing is, because I set up kind of my own home lab before, again, back when Tupac was alive, right? And one of the problems is you have if you have an ISP that will aggressively change your IP address, you have to figure out what your IP address is all the time.
Right. That was always a problem, even when you were doing it, opening the port.
Right. That's right. Because you had to figure out what it is, and you had to set up a thing that would ping occasionally, and then, Pavarotti passed. Okay. So
2007. I looked it up.
Okay. So it's about the same time. Yeah. So, long story short, Network Chuck is going to explain it way better than me. But he says they use more tokens than Chuck E. Cheese, which I thought I got a good kick out of that. So that's the kind of thing. So basically, what you do is you set up a network, and then you can set up resources you want to do. And I had this kind of sort of working, and it was cool because I was able to when we were on vacation in South Carolina, our dog sitter said the internet stopped working, and I'm like, okay. So I was able to, using Twingate, connect to the router configuration homepage and basically kind of help troubleshoot. So it was kind of nice. I did try to remote desktop into actually the Rocinante, but it wouldn't let me because I couldn't. I don't know what happened. So the two cool things happened was I was able to figure out how to use DNS inside of Twingate, which was really kind of something that it's not something I've been busy at work. I've been busy with home stuff, right? So it's not exactly I've been banging on this every day, but like when I try to go to sleep, it'll nag at me, right?
Right.
So it's like one of those kind of background processes. So basically, Twingate, I'm not paid by them or anything like that. And I think if you watch the Network Chuck video, you can sign up with like his code or something like that. But how it works is you add resources. So, and there's a whole bunch of stuff like here, and I read the documentation. I'm not going to lie, I don't fully understand it. So how do I sign into my network? Sign in. All right, this I may shut off. Hang on.
Yeah, it's a good call. Don't give away half your credentials, Frank.
No. This I'll shut off.
I think I shared this with you. I don't know if I've said it publicly, but I use the password generators to generate my usernames.
Oh, that's a good idea.
And then I use it to generate the I'm like, why am I giving away half of the goods?
Wait a tick. Why is this? I don't want to sign up. Hang on. This is probably.
And I'm disappointed that the mutant didn't work here, and because I was trying to mute me coughing. So
you probably have it on Zuckerberg mode.
But I don't know what that is.
Already using Twingate.
You were making a yoke.
I was making a yoke. All right, so here we go.
Mode.
Here we go. Now I'm authenticated. Dun dun dun. All right, I'll show my screen.
I'm proud of you, Frank.
Well, thank you. All right.
So Laconia,
another Expanse reference.
That's a whole gate.
That's a whole world, a whole empire.
Whole empire, yeah.
Spoiler alert.
I hope they need to if they start making the new ones, and I don't know if they will or not. I wish they would.
Do.
They stopped right before. I mean, Laconia is mentioned all through.
But in the final season, they took some of the short stories and kind of weaved it into the thing and kind of set it up. So if you're wondering, like
the center of the universe for the last half of the books.
Exactly. And it's like, that's why I couldn't enjoy the Lord of the Rings thing that they had on Amazon, because they cut the Expanse for budget. And I'm like, you spent $1 billion on this thing? Like, but anyway, we digress. So this
I'm not commenting.
This is the name of the network, and how it works is you add remote networks. So you've referred to my new home on the hill here as Empathy Estates.
Did I name Empathy Estates?
You did, and that gets into a whole thing about the empathy industrial complex that I will leave out for now.
Yeah,
But basically, you can add a network, and here's the cool thing: it's
that is
not
cool
just for on
right
premise.
there.
I can
Look
add
at
an
that.
AWS network to get resources there. Azure,
That is
Google,
so cool.
on prem, other. I shudder to think what's in other. I can't imagine.
The dark
Um,
web.
the dark web. Um, but then you add resources, right? So, and I guess I'm sharing my internal IP network.
I
But
was going to say Shaolin is not part of the.
no, because
It's not part of the.
when we moved, that's when I made the transition
I gotcha.
from what I had named things to what I'm naming
I
things
see.
now.
All right, all right.
So,
That's because I know what Shaolin refers to.
not just the monks, but also Staten
No,
Island.
yes, I think it's actually three references to that if you count the monks.
What's the other one?
Well, I the movie, wasn't there a movie?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
The 36 Chambers of Shaolin, but I guess technically that was about the monks.
Um,
So it would
okay.
collapse, and that we're doing a real time ontology here.
We'll call
Um,
it 2.23. I'm also
um,
making up numbers.
there you go. All the best statisticians do it. Um, so yeah, so Shaolin is the name of the entire network. I am in the process of renaming things to that, but so yeah, so basically what you do is if you want to add a resource, you label it, then you give it either the IP address or the DNS for it, and you can set up an alias for it. This is the thing I kind of sort of figured out.
Okay.
So that's why you see kind of the Comcast reference because I'm a Comcast
I
customer.
see. Okay.
So what's cool about it though is I can we'll say Rocinante. So what I can do is I can say, you know what, I don't want everyone to access this, right? I can change a
Right.
policy. I can create a policy that says create policy, and I'll call it live stream policy. And there it is. I can determine device security, only trusted devices. I can say I don't want iOS devices, or more accurately, I'd probably be afraid to put and let Android devices in, right? Um, I could do that. I have a lot of control over kind of the devices. I can set up
Gotcha.
various rules on authentication. How often do you want to do that? I can. There's also a way to set up multi-factor authentication. Let me
Nice.
delete that because it's always
Yeah.
fun trying out new things in production. Um, I can set up team members, right? I can
Yep.
set up. Um, I don't know what's in settings. The name of it, where I pull my identity from. So I pull my identity in from Google, but I could pull it in from a handful of other places too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently, there's an API which I'm gonna go around in there. And it's really cool,
Yeah.
actually. You have a setup guide, right? So you actually can run this in a Docker container. I don't actually. I have it running and um, two instances of Linux Mint. So I have Rocinante has it,
Hmm.
and I have a backup one that's running on a virtual Linux Mint machine.
Sweet.
Um, and probably not the most efficient way to do it, but there we are.
Yeah.
And in
You're
terms of
learning.
connectors, let's see. Will this show me the connectors? So I have two connectors, right? I have Happy Slot. They name it for you, right? And you can add connectors and things like that. And there's different ways you can. Oh, I like that one. I like that name. I'm going to keep that one. Um,
Ninja cockatoo.
so I can. What I
That's
could
the
do.
image is just hard. I'm just saying.
I'm going to see what Dolly says to say about that. So I have that. So if I wanted to, what I'm ultimately going to do is set it up on a Docker container, so that way it's a little
Okay.
more. Because what would happen is whenever I would reboot Rocinante, it would go down and I'd get an email saying, "Hey, it's down." Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because I booted into Windows or I restarted the computer. Right? Just little
Gotcha.
things like that. Um, but yeah, Network Chuck is it's got a lot of stuff in there, and it's just like when I saw that, like VPN killer, like this is a better way of doing this. I was like, this is really good. I like this. and that's how I discovered it. So I was able to, from Starbucks, like not just have to memorize the internal IP address or log into the router home screen, get the IP address from there, and then do that. I can just type in Tyco, and it will pull it in from there.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
I am subscribing to Network Chuck.
You totally should. It's awesome, and tell them I sent you. Tell them we sent you if you watch them.
I'm doing it right now, so I just subscribed.
Um,
he's a wild man, that's for sure.
He's a unique guy. I'm going to post this up here as an ad that we're doing a free webinar in October
Nice.
for free webinar on using AI in higher ed. It's a free webinar. Why am I doing this as a shameless plug? Well, I get paid by Red Hat, and more specifically on sales of Red Hat OpenShift AI. So I figured, it'd be good for you to take a look at this. And there we go. Sorry for the shameless plug. I saw that in the because Restream has added QR codes and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I see. Oh yes, the chat. No, so that's really cool. And Network Chuck, I think that the video I sent you was he did a review of the new Raspberry Pi,
which is supposed to be out. He said next month. We're doing this on something the 29th of September, 2023. Right. And the specs on it looked impressive. Frank, we did a little IoT around the Leonard farm
and the greenhouse and the weather station.
The greenhouse, yeah. We still have the weather station stuff going. Got some interesting stuff happening with that. So at first I thought somebody had complained about Andy Weather at twitter.com. And then I was like, well, and the reason I thought that, to be fair, is the message that you get from Twitter on apps says something like either you're like out of date or your app violated our terms and conditions. And I'm like, really? My weather data? And I had a bad experience with Instagram. Somebody complained about the Leonard Greenhouse hashtag. If you're wondering why you can still see it. And it goes back through all of the time when we were building it from starting in spring of 2020. I no idea. But it's hard to say, I was going to say something.
When you think of all the other, when you think about all the other hashtags out there that are perfectly cool, like really, that's one, huh?
It could have been some post. I don't know. It was a bunch of 4x4s, some red Piedmont mud. The guy on the left is about to enter the Matrix. Yes, Frank. Frank is on the bridge of the Nebuchadnezzar there, Justin.
We got better lights in now. So true. Yeah, no. So actually, it's funny because in the virtual green room we were talking about that is a 6-monitor rig that I set up. And you'll notice one of them isn't working because my lovely bride wanted the desk that thing sat on. So we swapped out desks, and it's about that thing's going on about 7 years now. 7 years old. The monitors work fine. The video card works fine. It's just the power adapters that ship with it. There was a reason why I got those 4 monitors super cheap at Micro Center, right? And if you look at all the reviews, it was just basically the power supplies are terrible. And fortunately, I'm able to order replacements on Amazon. And basically, I saw a thing like you've ordered 9 since 2018. I'm like, one, the shock was that 2018 was like 5 years ago. And then 2 was, I mean, for only 4 monitors, right? These 2 are different. But like I've run through a lot of power supplies. I probably should. Yeah, I don't know. I'll probably end up retiring it, but it does look cool, right? And thank you, Justin, for noticing that.
Absolutely.
I'm not gaming. He's gaming 6 games at once. I like that idea.
Oh, cool.
I like that idea. Actually, since I use it for video editing, because it was always very handy to kind of have one thing one thing up there, and then kind of like your stock footage and your, and then an IM window or a mail window. It was always very easy to have that. I've personally found that two 21:9 monitors, and I have to lock the screen because there's a picture of the new family member on that. I found that the two 21:9 monitors are ideal for video editing because or even audio editing, right? In addition, because it wants that wide swath of real estate. Thoughts on the new RTX series, RTX 50 series? I'm sorry, I'm not up to speed on the video card thing. The 8 monitors, dude. I've got more than 8. The machine I'm on now is plugged into a Lenovo dock, and I've got 3 monitors, so 2 portrait, 1 widescreen, and then the laptop thing there. Yeah,
so that's 11.
That
if you're counting, if
11.
you're playing along at home.
Plus, I recently moved the office, so there's a TV that I got to plug in and plug that in. But yeah, I got
12.
12. Yeah. So yeah, not a shortage of. Oh, and I have a cheap old Dell monitor that connects me to the server. So
13. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm here to count.
You're there to count. So yeah, I got a lot of monitors. I'm very, very. Part of it is my wife, who does a lot of documentation editing and things like that. She runs through monitors quite a bit. So she'll be like, yeah, I don't like this one. I want this one. And so I'll get it for her as a gift. And, the old ones I get, right? So I think when these were at Micro Center and they were like a crazy good deal, right? We each got 2. When the power supplies, when the power supplies went dead, she's like, F this, I don't want them. So I took them. So I should
bought new power supplies. Yes.
And they're only like 20. They used to be like $45. Now they're like $29. So it's not.
It's coming down. That's not bad.
It's not
the
bad.
Same thing happens here, with vehicles. So
yes,
my wife gets the new vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
I get the hand-me-down. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, but on Plus I have like X number of monitors, right? So, speaking of my wife, she just messaged me. So yeah, I will do a monitor reel. That'd be cool. Once I get the office cleaned up, because I did just move it from the other side of the house. And this stand that it's on, is a good 150 pounds, or a good 100 pounds. And then when everything's on it, it's heavy, like seriously heavy.
Yeah.
So I actually have it on a desk with wheels. So that made it feasible. So I did that on purpose, because if I did want to move it.
That is Frank's. I'm sorry. That is Frank's villain lair, Justin. He is actually a villain.
I do need dark green. I do have a Guy Fawkes mask that I could wear.
I think that counts.
I think that does count. Or was he a hero? That's a debate for another day.
Just thinking that it kind of depends now.
It depends on and that's the beauty of that movie too. It's like, it really depends. And if you rewatch it again in the post 2020 world, you're like, you'll find new things in it. I'll put it that way.
So true.
Get one of those LED masks covering the body. Ooh, I like that idea.
Oh, my son has one of those.
I do have like a light that does oscillate through colors, as well as let's see if I have one of those things there. There's the Guy Fawkes mask.
That. He turns off the lights in the room and just runs on that.
Oh, that's cool. I got to do that. But yeah, so thanks, Justin, for noticing my monitors. And it's always a great conversation starter when I do a sales call or whatever. It's like, oh my God, are those real? Is that a real background? It's like, yes, they are real. To paraphrase Seinfeld, although in a completely different context, they are real and they are fantastic.
Throwing out the references from back when the years began with the one.
That's right.
Left and right here. We're here all day.
You started with the Pentiums.
It was my fault. You're right.
I was like, are there people alive now that we didn't even know what a Pentium was? I remember I was talking to I was showing my kids, were like, they just can't imagine life without the internet. I was just like, they didn't have internet when you were a kid. I was like, well, they kind of did, but I couldn't get access to it.
Right.
And then I was like, I wasn't until college when I got it, and even then you wouldn't recognize it.
So when was
I
that?
do like the supervillain layer though. I do love that.
That's a great idea.
I have my Halloween decorations now planned.
When did they send that first email?
I was like 60, 68, 67. It was Doug Engelbart and Vince Cerf, I think.
Was it? And they were like 7 college campi communicating with the thing before DARPA.
I definitely have to check out. Thanks, Justin, for stopping by and commenting. I really appreciate it. And from YouTube,
love the
too.
engagement.
Nice, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I do need to get. I do need to get into the video card stuff, because mostly what I've been dealing with work, and I say it like it's a bad thing, right? Is customers who have the A100s, right, which are like you might have to sell 2 kidneys to get one of those. Like, no joke. And I realized we just sidetracked, but no joke. I want to say this before Justin dropped off. Was no joke. There was a startup that that's using our technology. That's all I can say. And they had 7 or 8 of them in a rack. Like, and it was a really cool looking office too.
Yeah.
But the nature of their work, I don't think they like to show off. Let's just put it that way. But like, what was really, talk about flexing, right? Apparently the A100s come in these like old timey looking like crates with like laser etching of like NVIDIA A100 on it. And they had it like in the office as decorations. And I was like, if that's not a nerd flex, I don't know what is. But
true. Michael, you asked a good question. Was it something about Dr. Watson? Oh no, that was the other thing.
I thought it said hello. It might have been from an overseas prince that was stuck somewhere.
And
or was that the second?
Had lots of money that they'd be willing to give you if you just send them some
wired the money.
Yeah.
But
I think that may have been the first email. So I don't know if it was that late. I was around then before
40 jokes.
40 jokes. That's funny. I was alive before that, Frank. Before 67.
Oh wow!
So I turned 60 this year.
That's right. That's right.
63.
You got 10 years on.
So, but you look and you look like 20 years younger than me, so it works out. But yeah, that's interesting. So I did live before it was available, but I want to say there was something out there before that.
Oh, there were BBSs
when I was born. No, I mean like before 63. I think there was something DARPA was or ARPA. I forget what they were called back then. I think they were doing something privately.
They were, yeah. Like, they had some other kind of network. It was, I think that's where Token Ring came from.
Something,
because it was IBM actually that was wiring up their mainframes together. I think that's where it started, and that would have been in the late 50s.
And I think Watson started talking back then as well. I'm kidding.
Which Watson?
Watson. IBM Watson.
Watson's hot again now. It's the Watson X. That.
Does it talk yet?
Not yet, but soon.
Not yet. Something does. I saw something talking. GPT talks.
GPT can talk. I don't seem to have it, or I haven't looked that hard yet.
I saw it. I got the email about it, but I haven't tried it yet.
My dad had a CB radio.
You can talk to GPT. Yep. So, Michael, did you have a CB radio?
There used to be a guy in Bayonne that would like get rid of the FCC put in like a power limiter. So this guy would go and fix it for you. So you just have to say, "I need more pep." That was like the code phrase. I don't want to say. I don't want to say his name because he might still be alive.
That was like the 80s version, the 80s word for cowbell.
Pep. The Watson X is a new family of AI models and products that IBM's coming out with. Guess what it's built on?
OpenShift
data science. That's right. So we are supplying the underlying aspects of it, which is awesome. It's a great vote of confidence because, like,
Yeah.
they know that the future is open source, right? And um, yes, and it was less fun than my brother and I imagined. Yes, that was the
It's cool for about 20 minutes.
unless you're driving and you didn't have
Yeah,
Waze to tell you that there were speed traps ahead.
that's true. So
Um,
I fun fact, I drove an 18-wheeler professionally
you
for
did?
about 6 months. I
I
was
didn't know
18.
that.
Yep.
What was your handle?
Yep. The Sparrow.
Ooh, very nice.
I was the Sparrow. My dad and I drove together. We would just take off. The only time we'd stop would be bathroom breaks, food, and mostly fuel. And most of the time, that was all one stop. But we just go and go and go. So if you
Um,
ever been in the cab of a Freightliner, there's enough room in there, unless you're, larger. There's enough room in there for two people to trade out. You get on a straight stretch on the interstate, drop the seat, scoot it back. Somebody, the incoming driver grabs the wheel, the outgoing driver shoots over into the
Interesting.
passenger seat. The incoming comes in, and you just change while going down the road. Probably not the most safe, but it wasn't uncommon back then to do that.
Interesting.
So,
I've
yep.
seen some
We used to
YouTube
haul
tours.
cattle and
Really
beans. Yes,
interesting.
soybeans. But yes, I used to drive.
Very cool.
So,
I've seen YouTube tours. Some of those cabs, the nicer ones, are like really
oh my gosh.
luxurious. Better
Yeah.
than some accommodations in like, some large cities. Like
Yeah. Yeah. And even back then, you could buy, a cab that cost more than a house,
yeah.
and that's still true. And there's still a lot of that going on. It's going to be interesting to see, and I think it's probably going to take a few years for the cutover to take place. But the self-driving tractors and trailers, especially the ones that are like depot to depot, that
I
that
still think we're ways away from that. Like
I'm thinking 28, 30, somewhere in there.
oh 28 oh 2028. I don't
Yeah,
know. I
28,
think it's
30.
more than that. I think
Really?
the could be wrong because I didn't expect ChatGPT to come out. I still thought we had a few more years for that, so I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But I've kind of wouldn't say soured on self-driving cars, but I'm not a believer that they're imminent, right? I think they're coming, but I don't think it's
Yeah.
imminent. Like just because I think augmented driving is definitely a thing. I have it in
Agreed.
in my car. Like actually both
Yeah.
my wife's car and mine have the assisted cruise control or advanced cruise control
You were
where
telling me about the braking and stuff. That's pretty cool.
it keeps your sanity when you have to drive on a beltway and then you're like
Yeah.
stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. There was one day that I guess there was a fire on the American Legion Bridge, which connects
Oh
Virginia.
no.
First off, there's not enough bridges between Maryland and Virginia, but that's a rant for another day. Um, the uh, they closed down the bridge, so it was basically I had to
Mm,
drive all the way out to Leesburg, which people are like who are not from the area, like well, but
way
way
west.
out of the way, way west. And this is before we moved. Actually, that would actually be a smart way to get here where I live now, but I didn't. So I had to go like 30, 40 miles west
Yeah.
to go 30, 40 miles east, which on a normal day it's only like 15 miles either way. But like it but that car was new at the time, and I just figured out how to use the adaptive cruise control. That's what it's called. And
Frank, here in Farmville,
mhm.
just the other day, it was, in fact, it was last Friday.
4 cars backed up to the lake.
Five. Five backed up at the light. Yes.
That's
I'm
wild.
complaining. We need to get rid of some people. That's just crazy.
We where we live, it's a bit more like Farmville than where I used to live. But yeah, the
Yes.
Empathy Estates, if you will.
Empathy Estates is in a great place, and
Um,
it's beautiful. I've seen pictures.
yeah, you got to come up and visit.
I know. Got to
Cool.
get up there, get you guys to come down here,
Yeah, for
hang out.
sure.
I can't. I've missed like half a dozen chances, and it's all because I'm an idiot or I'm busy
Or I'm an
working.
idiot. Like it's equal. There's equal blame on that.
Yeah.
But this year's been
There's some
wild. This
places.
year's been wild. We've been back and
Yeah.
forth to Pittsburgh, like
Yeah.
almost
Yeah. Well,
almost
that was.
every weekend. Like it was just
Yeah.
been, which is
It was out of the question.
what drove me to seek out a VPN or remote access solution, which is pretty cool,
Sandler,
actually.
you learned all about Twingate,
I
or
learned
what you
all
know
about
about
Twingate.
Twingate, and it
Well,
was
yeah, there's
enough.
plenty more to go, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's cool. You can limit it based on this, and I don't know. It's a very cool tech. We're not being paid by them. I'm just a big fan.
No, no.
And for like
I'm going to
free
try it, but I don't. I'd have to like drive into town to the Starbucks to
to test
get
it
on
out.
there. Yeah, to test it out. I don't have as good an excuse as you do. I might, and it's. I'll just say it this way: it's different when your kids are different ages.
Absolutely.
So my baby, he's 16, and
He's 16
he
already.
never leaves his room. Yeah, he's got his learner's permit.
Wow.
That yeah, be careful driving through. He's actually doing really well with
He's
it.
the fifth car.
But he's what?
He could be the fifth car in that form, or sixth.
Maybe. So, did you see the pictures of the gravel? We
Yes, I
just
did.
we put down a bunch of gravel because we're running out of parking space. So, you need more parking driveway. You just go get.
Yeah, you
It
said
turns out.
all these new drivers, and I'm like, what's he talking about?
Yeah. Well, everybody's driving. Except Riley doesn't have his own car yet, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that'll come. And it turns out about 17 tons of gravel, pea gravel, was the trick.
I assume you had that delivered.
Yep, yep. So
We
actually, Stevie did it. So
oh, cool.
we need a place that is covered. So last June 2022, Stevie started refurbing my old Jeep Comanche, my 1990 Comanche that I parked 16 years ago because the parking brake cable broke. I didn't even remember why I'd parked it, and he wanted to refurb it, and I was like, all right, And Mom was skeptical. That's part of her job, and it turned out that it's almost ready to be inspected. There's a
Nice.
couple of electrical things going on. He's got to figure out. He just got the old wheels put on the rims. Got new tires mounted on the old rims, and it looks like I'll say it once it gets repainted. It needs to be repainted, but once it gets repainted, it'll look like it did when I got it back in the '90s, and it looked like a large toy. Those little toy trucks
Yeah,
cast. It was
nice,
all shiny, dark blue, highly chromed wheels, set up a little bit.
nice.
So yeah, he's got
Well,
it going.
he's also studied electricity and robotics and things like that. So car
Yeah,
refurb is
he's
for me. I know what I don't know,
yeah.
and I would probably f that up pretty bad.
His fiance sent him a meme today that said it was some Instagram thing going around, and it's a guy saying, uh, I don't, I didn't know, they said, are you going to do this thing that you have no idea how to do? And he was like, yep. Went on to YouTube, watched enough videos, then went and did it. And he sold me on that idea, Frank. I
I mean,
mean,
it's a great way. Like, I got an invite to on LinkedIn. Like, hey, would you want to contribute to this article? I don't know if people have been seeing that, but it
yeah,
was
yeah,
like, how do you keep skilled up? And I'm like, I'm reading through the existing things, and no one's mentioned YouTube. Like, really? Like, I mean, obviously there's paid sites, right? Like LinkedIn Learning. There's
sure.
a plural site. And I'm knocking on 338 days consecutive of using plural site. Some
Wow,
days
Frank.
those are like 2 minutes. Some days
Right,
those are
right.
2 hours. But
Yeah.
the record I have is 374. So I'm hoping to shortly after November 1st, I should hit, breaking
Speaking
that
of
number.
November 1st, what do
Yep.
we got? 31 days, 32
Something.
days,
32 days.
something like that. 32, 33
Yep.
days. That's our new year.
That's our new year.
Yep.
So cool, man. I'm looking forward to New Year. I think I have the screens. I always ask Alexa how many days there are. And so like, I always keep in mind that, and a lot of that stems from an idea I heard. It might've been Pitbull, actually, we're closing out the loop, who said like, you would look at time, because Pitbull does a lot of things. He's not just a musician.
Yep.
Um, he has a vodka that he made.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
he started a charter school in Miami, and he has like at least two other like lines of business that he's into. So he's not
Nice.
just a singer; he's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And he was said, it might have been him. He said something like, if you look at a clock, it counts up, but what if the clock on your, ran backwards? You would look at time differently. And it's like, he goes, but the joke is that our life clock does run down.
It does.
He said it more eloquently, maybe with a few swear words.
Well, he's a singer.
He's a singer. He's an all, he has more lyrical prose than I do. But yeah, so that's like, I always kind of count down.
I say that's debatable, but he's got more videos out than you with
does.
music in it. I will say it that way. His music, yeah.
And if I were starring in those videos, I'd be in big trouble with the missus. I'll put it that way. Just put a little image in your head.
I noticed that I've seen 2 videos.
Oh, the one you saw is pretty tame, but like some of his
really?
Stuff, oh my god, yeah, some of his older stuff. He first came to I think it was his second album. Ended up on soundtrack to couples retreat or couples resort or something like that.
Okay.
And like the movie became a hit. It was Jennifer Aniston and one of the guys from Wedding Crashers. So like, and like that's when his second album really took off. But his first album was called Miami or second album, I forget, but pretty early on. But it was Miami, but it was an acronym, and it was money is always a major issue, which I thought was clever.
That's funny.
So he's he's a character. So
he is a character.
So
good way to say that, Frank. Good use of Farmvilleisms.
Farmvilleism. Bless his heart, right? Is that the other one?
That's right.
Bless his heart. Yeah, like I remember I would listen to that. Revolution was the first album that hit mainstream. Again, the album cover leaves not a lot to your imagination, but that way. But he had, there was a bunch of songs in there at the time. I was going through a tough situation. I was like, it was inspirational. So
cool.
So with that, going to end the live stream and the podcast episode, because we're going to repurpose this for those who can't do that, can't catch us live. But you can always catch us live. You follow us on LinkedIn and Frank's World TV, and I think we're on Twitch as well. I always forget about Twitch. Like, it just seems like I should do more with Twitch.
So I see the logos up there, and I see
Facebook,
YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I see those. Oh, what? Wait a minute. That says add channels. So that's where we're not streaming to.
No, I have a Twitch logo.
Are you?
Yeah,
okay.
See.
Well, I see a Twitch
Twitter,
logo.
Twitter, or whatever they're calling it now.
Are we going to X?
X, yeah. Okay.
Let me go over there. I want to see us before we end. Is it
I have seen it. It's Frank Diggs Data.
Frank Diggs Data. Let's see. Son of a gun, there we are.
I feel like
that scene in Spaceballs.
When was now? Now is just then. Did we miss it? Oh, that's now.
I'm looking over there at it.
There's always like a 20-minute, not 20-minute, but like a 20-second lag or 30 seconds. There's actually a Facebook video where a band had a projector and like they played like each part and they were able to like time it. It was very cool. So
coolness.
Here, let's go full on Spaceballs with this. Let me share the screen. Turn that on.
There we are.
There you go.
That's past Frank and past Andy. We were so dumb back then. Do you remember?
When will then be now? Soon. Well, what about just that whole scene is just comedic brilliance. Like anything, I think that was Mel Brooks, right?
Mel Brooks.
He's such a genius. There you go. Look, then was just now. And now we're in the future.
That's hilarious.
Time travel. So for those listening on the stream going like, what the heck? Check out the video feed. I'll link it in the show notes. And with that, I'll end the stream. Any parting thoughts, Andy?
No, this was awesome, Frank. Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for joining. I know we've been meaning to stream together for a while, so
I know. Yeah.
Crazy life, man. Crazy.
Yep. Good
All right,
stuff.
man. Adios. We'll let Bailey finish the show.